But I can't see the light from where I am, so it looks like it just didn't turn on.
That's a minute back.
Never the right way to test the mic. It hurts my ears.
Okay, ready to get started? Good morning. Welcome to Defenders Live. We have really a great little program here planned, and then plenty of time for our questions and answers at the end. We always start our Defenders Live with reviews of how the business is doing. We've had Christine Legord do that before, our Vice President of Finance, and we're going to do that again today. But I also wanted to start with a quick self-improvement story, because there are lots of them at Defenders and in this room, but Christine is a great self-improvement. Not only has she been promoted to become our Vice President of Finance, and she's doing an awesome job, but we have her doing some special projects, looking at some new things for Defenders and growth opportunities. She's growing her team and she's growing herself. So I know that she will kill me for saying this, but Chris this past year, she's not a morning person at all. But she said, I'm going to become a morning person. I'm going to start to go to the gym early in the morning. And she's always been fit, but she got very, very serious. What time do you get to the gym in the morning? 5 a.m. And she goes to a CrossFit gym, you know, that's where they throw tires around. And not little tires, truck tires. And she has really gotten herself in great shape at the CrossFit. And she recently competed downtown in an initiative to raise money for charity. And the initiative was called Strength in Our Streets. And she performed really, really well. She would never tell you that, but she kicks it down. And she also went to Speakeasy, which is a program that some people at Defenders have gone to. It's been really well received to improve public speaking skills and capabilities, and Chris already is pretty darn good at that. But she's a great self-improvement story, and I wanted to say that to embarrass her before she gets out. And takes us through some of the numbers, how we're performing financially and operationally, and then we'll come back with some other good news. Chris?
Okay, thanks, Jim. So I did not perform all that well at Strength and Increase, but I was, thanks to many of you in this room and some others, the fourth highest fundraiser out of 360 people. So that's the part I'm the most proud of. Okay, so we always start with sharing some positive stories and some good things that are happening around our business. And we just ended a quarter, so we ended our second quarter right before the holiday. And our marketing team brought in an all-time record inquiries. So you guys might not be familiar with that term. I know it's a newer term we use here. We used to always talk leads. But now we do get a lot of customers who come to us through the internet and not just through phone calls. So we changed the terminology a little bit. But it's a sign of what marketing is bringing into the business. And they broke the previous record, which was set in the first quarter, by 23,000 inquiries. So Round of applause. So what can we expect in third quarter from the marketing team? Record? A record. Yeah. So for those of you who are new to Defenders, we are approaching what we call prime time. This is typically our busiest season from about mid-July and through the end of October. So there's some signs that that is upon us and that we are seeing those record weeks come in. And one of those happened on our sales team. So in June, we had our highest Defender sales week at 4,967 sales, which is only 12 shy of the record. Good job to the sales team. And I know it's early in July, but the sales team is also on pace to break our all-time highest close rate ever. So they're at 51.5 for total close rate. We have several different measures of close rate, but for total close rate, they are right now at record pace for the month of July.
So that's like all in close rate.
All in.
Might be a little different number than some of you are used to.
Right, you guys are used to Defenders, which is typically 55, 56. Okay. So as we hit record sales, we need people to to go out and protect families, right? So we have more essays than ever protecting our families, and we are hiring in record numbers. So hats off to the recruiting team and to the branch managers and the trainers and everybody for onboarding our new security advisors. We had our largest ever hiring class on 6/12 at 67, and we expect to see that even higher as we approach prime time and continue to get in more people to keep up with the record pace that we're seeing. The field team is also hitting some other big numbers besides just hiring new people. On 6/2, they posted their second highest install day of all time, and they were only 11 shy of the record at 1,277 installs. They also are on pace to post their highest RPO and are currently sitting at 2,317. RPO is revenue per opportunity, so that is a reflection of both the contract value and the thorough protection that we put in the home. And one of the reasons that we're seeing such great numbers is our pulse take rate. So right now we are upgrading over 8 out of 10 customers to pulse. So we're at, I think, our 82% the last month for our pulse take rate. And then I also want to give it up to the field for helping us simplify the contract process for both the customer and for themselves. So we have a goal to be at 100% e-contracts and be a paper-free company. And the field delivered for the whole quarter, the field delivered an e-contract rate of 97%. That's a big improvement. So let's talk about our profit bonus. So as you know, if we're at primary, the profit bonus is 1% of annualized earnings. We are currently sitting at 97% through the end of May. And forecasted out for the next 3 months, we are around 96%. So we are still above minimum goal, but we are short of our primary profit goal right now. And we are competitive winners, and we do not like to be behind primary. Which leads me to talk about our win. So what is or was our first half win? Who wants to share? Call on somebody, Casey. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Casey. So we want to increase our 2-week install rate up to 70%. Our end date to achieve the first half win was June 30th, and we did not achieve our goal. We did create some great momentum, but we did not achieve our goal. So we are going to continue our WIG into the second half of the year. We're going to get some renewed energy around it. and keep pushing towards that 70% goal. That is the number one thing we can do to focus on getting ourselves from minimum to primary for our profit bonus. So you'll be getting with your teams and looking at your wigs and perhaps redesigning them in some cases and re-talking about what you want to do with some renewed energy as we move into the second half. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jim.
Good, thank you, Chris. You know, just to pick up on that wig, we're not used to not accomplishing a major goal. And I believe this is the first time that we have not achieved one of our wigs. We set up a pretty audacious wig, but we did that because we said, we believe this is the most important thing Defenders can do to reach its overall goals in 2018. So what we're going to do in the second half is keep the same way. It's going to be the same. As Chris said, there's some real momentum. We actually made progress against the wave, but we didn't achieve it. So we're not going to take a loss and go focus on something else. We're going to do it. This is the biggest thing we could do in order to deliver the year. So there'll be quite a bit of additional communication. Some departments have already engaged in their second half wig rollout. And we just want to make sure that we pick each of the individual battles that enable us to win the war, and the war is to accomplish the overall win. Do yourselves a favor, you might even want to dust up on the 4 Disciplines of Execution to read the book again, or you could read a primer. There is a Cliff Notes version of the book available if you want. Now, our communication team recently, Carolyn Manco and team, surveyed our organization. What do you want to get out of these Defenders Live events every month? And you came back with some really good feedback. Some of the things that you want to hear more about is the business, how we're doing operationally, and financially, philanthropically, organizationally, and then specifically want to hear more about our ADT relationship and how ADT is as a public company and our most important partner. Want to learn more about the competitive landscape and some specific competitors like Simply Safe and Amazon Ring, Comcast, and Vivint. And Rob Davis is going to come up and he's going to talk to us about those things and several other things. Great update, you know, a lot that we've learned recently that Rob's going to share.
Thanks, Jim. So this update is a condensed version of what we reviewed for the directors and above at the company during our recent quarterly leadership summit. At the QLS, it took about an hour and 10 minutes. This is going to be 9 minutes, and about the time that it takes to eat a bowl of blueberries. So we're going to start with a summary of the industry. And I think the theme that we want to convey for this update is that things are really positive and that there are a lot of opportunities for Defenders. So first of all, the economic conditions. As you're all aware, you know, unemployment's low, the housing market's strong. Those factors point to good things for the residential security business. ADT continues to be the market leader in this business. Now, some of the competitors are gaining share. We're going to talk about those, but they still remain the predominant company in the industry. Some of those competitors, who are they? Jim mentioned Amazon, Ring, Simply Safe. But the number 2 and 3 competitors in the space are Comcast and Vivint. And they're growing. They're growing quickly. Comcast because they can bundle their services. And Vivint has feet on the street and has proven to be a pretty strong competitor. Also, local competitors, those small companies that you see, the signs that are all over your neighborhoods, and some of the names that you recognize but aren't national names, those have 51% of the market share. That's really good news for us because we compete really well against those local companies. And then there are new entrants, the Amazons, the Rings, the Simply Safes of the world. Those folks are making a splash, and they are formidable competitors because of their marketing and because of their economic models. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then what else is happening in the industry? Our standard way of doing business, 3-year contracts, roughly $50 MMRs, and upfront costs are the way that we've done business for a long time. And that's the status quo now. That's not going to stay the same, but that's the way the business is now. And also, as you know, technology is changing, just like everything else. Technology is changing, updating, and rapidly evolving to make for really an exciting environment. So when we look at those competitors, who are they? We have it here in 4 quadrants. On the top left, you'll see that the traditional competitors like ADT, some of the regional competitors like CPI, you also see Monty, Guardian, and Vivint. Those are traditional competitors. But just below those, you have the cable and telcos. If you're familiar with those companies, as I mentioned, have an advantage because they can bundle their services into their monthly bills, and they make an easy transition for their customers to adopt security for those businesses. On the top right, DIY. You see those companies, FrontPoint, Nest, Ring, SimpliSafe. Those are do-it-yourself installers. They typically have a digital model, and they are a new and emerging threat to the business. And on the bottom right, you'll see Point Solutions. A lot of those companies, the names will be familiar to you, but there's probably some single product. Those products like Wi-Fi cameras, locks. Those businesses are increasing awareness for security. So that's another opportunity for us. So as those companies continue to evolve, they continue to promote their products, that creates interest in the category and drives interest potentially in true security, which we can provide. So where's security going? We talked on the left side about what the business is like now, but we want to talk about what's important for the business and then where we're going in the future. So what's important? Really important at the top of that, ADT must grow. They've lost share to these competitors, a number of competitors entering the market, but ADT has to start growing. We'll talk about how and why that will happen in a minute, but that's an imperative. Also, we have to meet the customers where they are. We have to make them, give them the opportunity to pay how they want to pay, buy how they want to buy, and to service and install the account the way they want to do that. And really the message here is that companies like us who are going to thrive in the future have to be nimble. We have to partner with ADT. We have to encourage them to be nimble. But we really have to adapt our model from where we have been in the past, where we're going in the future. And in that future state, what does that look like? So Amazon and Ring, they're strong competitors, and they're going to beat you. They've got big marketing budgets. Amazon acquired Ring, so we know that they're everywhere. They're not going anywhere. SimpliSafe just was acquired for $1 billion. So that money that they have gotten through the acquisition will be funneled into marketing, which is going to create more of a presence in the marketplace for them. So we'll see they're not going anywhere. The financials, you'll see 4 points here on this slide about the financials. And the message I want to convey here is, this is really the cell phone model. Customers don't want to contract. They don't want to have big equipment costs. They don't want to pay a lot. It's no upfront fees, $40 per line, unlimited access to data. That's what we're seeing in the industry. That's how we're evolving. So that we're going to have to meet customers at the space that they expect, and we have to offer them the products and services, particularly home automation, they want and they believe they should have as part of residential home security. So how are we going to do that? We're going to do that in a couple of ways. One, we will re-enter home automation. You heard us talk about the Honeywell partnership on a number of occasions, but it's really starting to move forward and move quickly. This slide talks about our evolution back into home automation. And just to reiterate, when we were in home automation in 2014, 2015, that did not go well because the products were not suited to our process and to the consumer's expectations. As the products have evolved and gotten better, and the technology has gotten better, it's where we needed to be, and we're going to move quickly back into home automation. We introduced lights and locks at the beginning of this year, and that's gone extremely well. We have just introduced in the Carolinas the doorbell pilot. So now we have outdoor video capabilities. That is thriving, and we're seeing really good results in the Carolinas because of that. And from here, our next big step is the Honeywell pilot. ADT is going to launch their pilot, their friends and family test, at the end of July. They're going to move into their customer pilot in September. We're going to follow that closely with a test. We're going to test it on a limited scale. As you can see here, we're going to test that starting in September, on September 19th. And then we're going to test and measure that through the third quarter and into the fourth quarter, when we'll be prepared to launch fully and roll that out across the nation over about a 7 or 8 month period. One other thing I know here is that, when we move into 2019, we're going to expand those outdoor video capabilities, and we're going to test and measure into other home automation services that will really meet our customers' needs. So we're going to have a full suite of home automation capabilities that will enable us to grow and to meet the demand of the consumer. And then the other big thing is we're going to work with ADT, and we're going to work with them closely in ways that we haven't done before. We had, at the end of June, a strategy session with ADT's CEO or president, Jim DeVries, their CFO, their president of dealer partnerships, and we're really collaborating with them for the first time on a strategic level. ADT has not been growing, and there's a reason why. As you recall, they were acquired by Apollo, and Jim DeVries told us a couple of weeks ago, over the past couple of years, they have not spent 5 minutes on strategy. They spent all the time over the last couple of years fixing the business, working on the business, and now they're turning to strategy to grow. So they haven't grown because they couldn't, they haven't been focused on it. So now, with our help, and Defenders is going to be a key element of that growth strategy, they're going to start to take on the competition. As I mentioned, we're going to test and measure, ramp back into home automation in parallel with ADT. They're doing the same thing with the new high volume panel, and we will see additional capabilities in partnership with them as we have the same equipment platform going forward. And then lastly, we need to be nimble. We need to be quick. We need to be collaborative. Great example of that is on Thursday, ADT's IT team is coming in, and we're going to have an IT summit all day. We're going to meet and talk with them about ways that we can work together. We also have other proposals and ideas on the table as we continue the strategic collaboration, work more closely with ADT to compete, to grow, and to win.
Great. Thank you, Rob. Now, Rob has many, many talents. One of them, and I'm guessing he used that today, people will say something rather bizarre to Rob and say, see if you can work this into your remarks. And I think about the time it takes to eat a bowl of blueberries, I'm just guessing. Who asked you to say that, Rob? Yeah, thank you. So if you think Rob is not as bizarre as he sometimes is, he's just very clever. So we'll get you, Adam, for this. So I don't want anybody to miss out on a bowl of blueberries. We're going to have Dan come up next and talk about one story out of many he could have picked, where a defender made sure that bad things didn't happen. And then Dan, why don't you open it up for questions?
Thank you, Jim. I'm actually going to share 2 stories, so as Jim said, I wanted to do a little bit of recognition for some field employees who have really embodied making sure that bad things don't happen to good people, which is one of the things we're passionate about here today. So first, I wanted to recognize Chad Hudson from our St. Louis branch. Chad will be receiving the ADT Lifesaver Award this week, and Jim will be sharing all those details and the full story later, so I don't want to steal that thunder. But I did want to share one quote from Danielle McFall, who had her life saved by Chad and the system he installed. She said, "I'm grateful for the installer who convinced me to add CO protection to my system and suggested that we put it in the utility room where the leak occurred." If Chad hadn't followed the thermal protection system and included carbon monoxide in his plan, the McFall family might not be with us today. So I wanted to recognize and just send a thank you out to Chad. So second, I wanted to recognize John Jones from our Louisville office. About a month ago, John went on an appointment on an unusually hot day, and his appointment was with an elderly couple. Job started out really normal. John greeted the customers at the door, and Mrs. Fowler was just heading out to take her dog for a walk. John got to work, and as he was putting up the panel, the heat started getting to him. So he told Mr. Fowler, "Hey, I'm just going to pop outside real quick and grab my water bottle from the car." Then, when John stepped out the front door, he was met with kind of a shocking scene. Mrs. Fowler was sprawled out, bruised and bloody. Their dog's leash was wrapped up all around. That's when John sprang into action. First thing he did was call 911. And then his EMT training kicked in. He ran over to Mrs. Fowler, helped her regain consciousness, untangled the dog leash, took her over into the shade, used the ice packs and the water from his lunch cooler to keep her cool and hydrated. And then a few minutes later, but I'm sure it felt like hours to John, the paramedics and the fire department showed up, and they got to work with an oxygen tank and an IV. Now, as they were rolling her into the ambulance, our SM, who had arrived on site, overheard her say to John, "Thank you for saving my life." Now, it's stories like this that drive me to want to grow our business and protect more families. This is why we do what we do. We literally save lives. Now, I also like these two particular stories for another reason, because they're stories of great systems. If Chad hadn't followed the 11-step system and really thoroughly protected that family, he had done what most other security companies do, which is front door, back door, motion, and out, that family wouldn't be around to thank him and present him with the award tomorrow. And similarly, if John hadn't relied on the systems and training he had as an EMT, then Mrs. Fowler wouldn't have been able to thank him after their award. So I just wanted to send thank you and some recognition to Ed and John for living this aspect of Defender's culture and making sure bad things don't happen to you. Thank you. Now it's time for Q&A. Great. Robert? Rich?
Yeah, what a great job. Thank you for sharing those stories. It's easy to forget why we do what we do. Really, really great job. Questions of any kind?
Wondering if you could share an IEP goal that you're working on that you think you're doing well in, and how you did that.
Who'd like to take that? Richard? Well, we'll just do one, and then we'll do another.
So one of my third IDP goals is focused on personal better work-life balance. How am I doing against that goal? I'd probably say about 80% of the way there. And
Look at the other guy.
that's called being on a baseball
He's
field.
visionary.
So why 80%? I love the work. I love being around my team. I love protecting families. But we do a better job putting God first. Family right there, number 2, and then there's going to be prioritization on that. Focus on how I'm accomplishing that goal. One, practice time in the morning. So meditation, I get up every morning, so between 5:30 and 6 a.m. Minutes a day. Accomplishing that in my journal now for going on 9 days straight. Being the right frame of mind going into the workday. And then number 2, I leave a note for my kids. Like the day, and I've been doing that. And that just helps me reconnect with my family and create that balance. Those are little things that help create prioritization in my life, and how you can do a better job here with that group as well. Personal relationship. Thanks for your question. Yes, that's awesome. Thanks. Thanks for the 10.
Other questions? Yeah.
I don't need a microphone. Is there a status update on the HQ renovations?
Sure. Take a shot at that. Yep.
Yeah, so far they're on track for our original plan. It's really 2 big phases. One is to complete the west side of the building, which that'll be completed by the end of August. And so people will be able to move into that side of the building. Then we'll start the east side right around that same time. And so we'll move some folks into temporary space. Some folks in the temporary space will move over into the complete section, and then we'll complete that by the end of the year. So far, so good. I'm excited about it. Things on track. So hopefully you guys have been getting the updates that Carolyn and the team have been sending out, and moving along. They're actually in the process of painting, and then we'll start with pouring and moving quickly.
Any others? I want to thank Christine Legore and Rob Davis. Great job, Rob. And ADT updates as to the industry, and the enabler for those great stories. Thank you all. Let's go have a great summer and finish strong in the second half.